Welcome to In Touch with Officer Dawn and Ray the DA. I'm your host, Jenna McNeil. Kentucky Legislature's House Bill 463 has boosted the number of inmates who are eligible for early release from custody. There are many factors that can impact an inmate's real time served. One of these factors includes the risk level in which the inmate is labeled based on classification systems that range from high risk to low risk. States like Oregon classifies risk level by inmate age, gender, and adult criminal history, neglecting to consider other important factors such as juvenile criminal history and crimes committed out of state. Poor classification systems such as this mislabel some criminals as low risk and promote their early release from custody. Listen in as Ray reports the reality behind some of these low-risk offenders. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in to a Clear Channel station to hear the full episode. Air times and stations are posted at the end of this video. See you next week, crime fighters!
Welcome to In Touch Crime Beat. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson.
Out of jail, okay? Don't mess up.
And those are the people, those repeat offenders, the ones that go to prison. And
I say we're the #1 rated radio show in the whole country.
6% of recent people put in Oregon's penitentiary are what they call low risk. And my buddy, the prosecutor in Oregon, says, I want to know who these people are that you call low risk. This 26%. And let me tell you who some of these people are that are low risk. 2 are on death row. 1 for bombing a bank and killing 2 police officers. The other one is a mother who starved, beat, and tortured her 15-year-old daughter to death. Of this 26%, 21 are facing life sentences. For example, a father who killed his wife, her body was found 2 years later buried in the woods. A deputy sheriff who murdered his 30-year-old pregnant mistress. The judge at the trial and sentencing of this guy said he was a sociopath who should never be considered for parole. Now see, these people were out and got back in. You see, low risk, they say. Another one is a woman who beat her 86-year-old deaf neighbor to death with a shovel after just getting out of prison 4 months earlier. 57% of these low-risk types committed a homicide or tried to kill somebody. 78 of this 26% called low risk assaulted somebody, and a lot of that was domestic violence, and 53 of that 26% had committed robbery, 53 of them. You know, so the question is, who in the hell side are these people on?
And we deal with that here. We had a guy that shot a police officer in the stomach, a Lexington police officer, and then we find out that he's at Blackburn, which has basically no security. You can walk away from that facility there off Leestown Road anytime you choose to. And they call that an escape. I don't see where they get that. You really have an escape from something that doesn't have any walls. But anyway, I mean, people do not understand how they do these assessments. Well, you know, why would someone who shoots a cop?
Well, it's a classification system, and the whole goal is to keep people from going to prison or to let them out. And they go through this risk assessment. Oregon's does not consider, this is what they consider in their risk assessment, the inmate's age, gender, and adult criminal history. They don't consider crimes they committed as a juvenile or what they committed out of state. You see? So there's a great analogy that was reported to me about the Oregon system. And one guy said, a critic said, I once served as a lawyer for a company which was subject to the federal, the FDA, food, as it relates to food labeling requirements. He said that if his company had mislabeled a product the way the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission mislabels low-risk offender, his company would have been shut down. Think about that. That's a good analogy. It's called labeling, mislabeling, misclassifying these guys, and basically the whole damn system is turning into a fraud because the only goal is to let people out. That's the goal. Let them out. It has nothing to. It really Pew isn't interested in saving money. That's how they sold it. They said this is being smart on crime, and he said we're not. They say we're not putting people in prison we're scared of. We're putting people in prison we're mad at. What a bunch of crap. When somebody told me that at a prosecutor's conference, I stopped him and I said, "You got a room full of prosecutors here, and I will guarantee you that there is not one person who has been involved in prosecuting somebody because they're mad at them. Mm-hmm. They prosecute them because that defendant chose to violate the law, not because the prosecutor's mad at them." And I said, that's an insult, and he ought to be ashamed of himself.
Well, it's insulting to the victims of crime to take punishment out of what's happening to these criminals. And we don't address that very often. But the reality of it is, victims want justice. They want these people punished. They are mad at them. And that is a part of it. Now, of course, it doesn't play for the prosecutor, because the prosecutor has a job to do. But you certainly understand why a victim would be mad that someone hurts their son or daughter, kills someone that they love. And that victim has a right to be angry. That victim has a right to see justice. That victim has a right to know that the person that committed the crime is being punished. Not corrected, punished. And it's so disheartening for victims and they'll tell you this, it's amazing how that as you get into the process of prosecuting someone, and definitely thereafter, the story turns from the victim and becomes about the person who committed the crime. And how you can reform them, or how you can get them back in the community to be productive. The victim could care less about getting the person back in the community to be productive. They want them punished. But it's almost an outrage for a very small group of vocal people when you use the word punishment related to a criminal justice system. You'll get letters and emails on this right now just because we're using the word punishment. They think it's just appalling that you would want to punish people.
If there are no consequences for violating the law, then why do we even have the laws? See, this goes back to this BS that where you play soccer and basketball and football games and don't keep score. Mm-hmm. That's
well, you have a situation where the only people that are policed are the people who are nice enough to follow the law. The people who work outside that, the criminals, they're not really held to that standard because they just keep ignoring the line. When you draw the line, there has to be consequences. And really, I don't care about being fair, to people who've been convicted of heinous crimes. When you think about it, I've never understood when you slap somebody on the hand. When someone breaks into a house, okay, they break into a home in the middle of the night. You catch them and you slap them on the hand and say, "Don't do that anymore, let them out." Then they do it about 50 more times, and you slap them on the hand. And the 51st time they break into a home, and then something goes wrong, and they wind up killing and hurting someone. You'd have to think, maybe if you had punished them appropriately the first 2 or 3 times that they broke into an occupied home before something went, perhaps they wouldn't be in a situation now where they are going to be in prison for the rest of their lives, and a victim wouldn't be hurt. That is another way, another deterrent for criminal activity.
It has to do with the expectation of incarceration. And right now it's as low as it has ever been in the state of Kentucky. And I fear that with our legislature and the attitude they got, I'm afraid it's going to get worse. I hope not, because this plan that they came up with is not working.
And it's not about politics, because to be totally candid about it, our legislature, both Republican, Democrat, and whatever they are, they're on the same page right now.
Yeah, only 3 people voted against
this.
They're
thing. On the same page, and it's to let people out of prison, to not punish and incarcerate. So it doesn't matter your political affiliation or if you're going to have one. The reality of it is, this is about victims, about crime, about criminals, and that's how it needs to be addressed. We'll see you next week on In Touch.
Tune into the following stations to hear the full episode.